Hello, my name is Alan, also known as McLaren 2009, and today I'm going to be giving a demonstration of my most recently created Secure Integrated Navigation System, or SINS. I'm going to be using a aircraft, or at least a modified version of it, to show you the system, because I wanted to actually show it functioning on a real vehicle. So, I modified my earlier A6 intruder to accommodate my new secure navigation system and also my touchscreen radio, but that'll be a different video. So, basically what this is it is an integrated system that shows all navigation information for an aircraft. Ideally, I built the system so that it could be put onto an aircraft. It is comprised of a GPS system, so it'll give you your grid coordinates, your altitude, your current heading. It has an Identify Friend or Foe system, or IFF transponder. So it allows you to give the current location, ID number, and altitude to a ground-based station. It also has a tactical air navigation system, which allows you to use radio beacons around the world as a fixed reference point that you can calculate how far away you are from it and what direction you need to go in. Now, the cool thing about TACAN is not only can you use it to communicate with a ground radio station, you can also put it into what would be called air-to-air mode, where you can communicate with another aircraft. So, I'm going to show you how I put all of these things into this system. I previously made an integrated navigation system which had most of the same functionality, but this is significantly more streamlined. The older system, it had touch controls, but they were very limited, and it became like a very convoluted mess with setting up the logic, getting it all to work properly, and it has some shortcomings. All of those have been addressed in this new integrated system. Plus, not only did I streamline the existing system, I made it so that it has even more functionality. So, for starters, the root screen is what I call the GPS 1 screen. This is your map display. It only has 4 working buttons. The other ones, you can press them, but they don't do anything. This just shows where you are in the game world. I modified the colors to be a little bit more dark and subdued, with the exception of the letters and blocks where the buttons are. You can zoom out, you can zoom back in. It shows the name for the screen. The red line indicates magnetic north. The green line right here indicates your vehicle's current heading. It also has a digital clock readout centered at the bottom of the screen. These 2 buttons are the only buttons that do not change on any of the screens. This one scrolls back, and this one scrolls forward. Zoom in, or zoom out, zoom back in. Now you go to the next screen. This is where you have what you would call like your GPS information. Like if you have, say, a handheld GPS unit for hiking, it will tell you your grid coordinates, your current bearing, which way you're facing, and this also includes your current altitude, which kind of makes sense since I built it for an aircraft. Just like the GPS 1 screen, this one only has 4 buttons as well. The same buttons to go forward and backwards through screens, and then these two, which are a little bit different. This one activates the distress beacon for the aircraft. So there is a buzzer right here, and at the back of the aircraft you can see the actual transponder underneath it. And this is set to blink at a defined interval just to let you know that the system is active. This, on the other hand, is the distress beacon locator. It is located at the nose of the aircraft, and it also blinks using the same red box and the same buzzer. Right now, it is currently detecting the beacon for the aircraft. If I turn this off, it would stop beeping unless there is an active transponder somewhere in the game world. But that is a pretty handy way to test that it is in fact working. So, turn that back off, and this is all of the information on the GPS 2 screen. Now we go to the next screen, and we have the IFF transponder. Now, I set up the system over there to be communicating with this. However, you'll probably notice that this information makes no sense whatsoever. That is because it is encrypted. I have the encryption key set on that transponder. It is currently about 70 meters away, give or take, not about 25,000. So, in order to see the proper information, we have to put it onto the same encryption key. Now, the good news about this particular system is that it has the encryption system already built in. It has a modified version of my Secure Data Transceiver built in, and there are 2 separate instances of it for both the IFF transponder and the TACAN system. So, now we are seeing the clear information from our ground-based radio station over there. But the station does not see us. So, we are going to turn on Mode A, which transmits the ID number, Mode B, which transmits our X and Y grid coordinates, and Mode C, which transmits our current altitude. But turning on these modes is not enough. You also have to turn on the transmitter. Otherwise, it's not transmitting anything. So, in order to verify that this is in fact working, we are going to climb out of the cockpit, walk over to our radio test set, and see what's going on with it. Alright, if you look at the readout here, you have a visual display telling you approximately how far away the vehicle is. And then if you look at the compass, or you look at the map, this is true north, or grid north. And then to our left is the other vehicle. Makes sense. So, now you look at the target information monitor. You have Vehicle 1, bearing 050. So, take our little magnetic compass, and we are currently at bearing 050 from the radio antenna, and an altitude of 14. Let's see. One of these... Alright, I do not appear to have the thing for that, but we'll have to take that one on faith. Alright, so, bearing 050, altitude of 14, and it's in the right general position. So, actually, before we do that, let's set up the other part of the demonstration, the TACAN system, which is Tactical Air Navigation. Let's set this one to receive on 2, transmit on 1, set this one to transmit, and we'll put that on key 1. Okay, so now this is set to transmit. Now let's go back over to the cockpit of the intruder, and we'll set the installed system to the transmitter. Also, since we're still on the IFF screen, let's get up really quick. Approximately 230 degrees. It's like bearing 230 is going back to the radio station. So sit back down in the seat, and we'll go to the TACAN screen. Now, if you remember correctly, I put the other one to receive on 1. Oh, no. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit out of my mind at the moment. Alright, so set the other one to transmit on 1 and receive on 2, so this one has to be on the opposite frequency. It is set to receive on 1 and transmit on 2. But, as you already know, this information is completely wrong. Switch to encryption key 1, and you now have the accurate radio station X and Y grid coordinates, the distance to the grid coordinates, and the bearing to those coordinates. So, that is now communicating with our simulated radio station. So, what can we do with that? Well, it allows us to use waypoints around the world that we can navigate to. So instead of just pulling out like the GPS in your car and then just driving down the road, and then you just follow the overlay of the map onto the GPS unit, with a plane it's a little bit different. Yes, you still have those landmarks, but following the road is probably not the best way to go about doing it. So instead, you would navigate based off of radio transmitting stations. And they're everywhere. It could be at an airport, or it could just be a designated station in the middle of the woods somewhere. But the cool thing is, as I already mentioned in the video, the TACAN system can also communicate in air-to-air. So, instead of communicating with a transmitting radio station on the ground, where you just have to be set to receive on the opposite or on the same frequency that the station is transmitting on, you can act as a transmitter, and you can navigate based on your bearing and distance to another aircraft on the same frequency. And I've also made this system secure with my Secure Data Transceiver. So now that the aircraft is functioning as a transmitter, we're approximately 71 meters away, and a bearing of 231. So that is the bearing of 231. As you can see, it is in fact pointing at our simulated radio station. So now we're going to run over here, and since this is also set to receive, because this is an exactly identical system, we go over here, and it is currently receiving the unencrypted data from our aircraft. Now, the thing that I have not been able to figure out is why the distance isn't the same. I have tried scouring over every bit of it. I cannot figure out why it does not match. The best I can guess is that the grid coordinates are slightly off and being rounded differently. But even that doesn't make sense because they're getting the same information and using the same system to approximate it. So it should be the same. The plane said we're 71 meters away. This says we're 73. I don't know. But we look at the bearing, 051. At 051, there is the plane. So that is working exactly as intended. Now, let's go back to the plane, because there is one more system that is part of the integrated navigation system. And that is a radar transmitter. Now, this had to be slightly modified to get put onto the plane, because the plane, its radar antenna, is set to sweep, not to constantly rotate. So, normally, there's supposed to be words that say radar across the top there, and normally there is an orangish triangle, or there's a green triangle that follows behind the line. But for this, since it goes back and forth, it didn't make sense to leave the triangle there, and instead I just leave it sweeping as just a straight line. And the actual system itself, the only things required to install this system on a vehicle is an instrument panel, a monitor, and a buzzer. These three indicator lights, this is saying the IFF transmitter is active, this is the TACAN transmitter, and this is the radar transmitter. And they all have this same system. But since I have the radar set to sweep, it's only going to detect things in front of the aircraft. So if I go over here and I stand here, go into photo mode and unpause, there is the player character. Right in front of, but canted slightly to the right of the aircraft. Exactly where I'm supposed to be. And as you can see, there is the antenna sweeping back and forth. Now, if we go back over to the test set, I can show you how it's installed and what you need in order to use this system on your own vehicle. Okay, so we have a 2x3 monitor. It's only set up for the 2x3 monitor. If you put it on a 3x3, it's going to be kind of collapsed up towards the top with a one block line at the bottom. Pretty much the only thing that's going to look even half decent is going to be this screen with the map. But you need a 2x3 monitor, a single instrument panel, and a single buzzer set to the alarm of your choice. You need a vehicle that has its own electricity. You need a clock, a GPS sensor, an altimeter, a compass sensor. You'll need electricity, 4 radio antennas, a 5x6 microcontroller, a radar antenna, a transponder, and a transponder locator. And you install all of these things and connect the labeled systems, and you too can have a fully operational, secure, integrated navigation system. So, that is my updated system. Thank you for watching.